We have the two dots on the bottom of Kuf Mem Hey Amin Aleph, all the way on the bottom. Shoshbina Nigvis Bezdin. We talked in the Mishnah about the din of Shoshbinas, the thing that you have to reciprocate a gift. There are 5 rules that we've learned about this requirement to pay back a gift. Nigvis Bezdin. Like we said in the Mishnah, a person can go to Bezdin to enforce the reciprocation. That when it has to be returned in the proper time, meaning if Ruvain gave Shimon a gift, when by Shimon's wedding, Shimon waits to return it when Reuben gets married or when his child gets married. It can't ask for the gift back until you have a simcha. You can't just say, you owe me. The aimbo mishum ribis. If the second gift is larger than the first one, there's no din ribis.
It's huge cooler.
But you can't. Of course, it's a reciprocating gift. It's a gift. It's not a.
You owe money. Someone do it over here.
Yeah, very a lot of rules. Yeah. Right. Normally, if you have a debt and shvius comes shmita, then you don't have to pay it back anymore. But this is not a classic debt. The Gemara is going to say why. If, like we had in the Mishnah, right, if the person who was supposed to get back the gift died, and then his son gets married, and therefore the person who owes the gift gives it to his son, gives it to the estate, it's only considered to be, it's divided up amongst all the Yarshim equally. The oldest son doesn't get double. So niggas best in my time, why is it that it can be advocated? You can go to Bezdin to collect it. Kamil v'damim. Because it's like a halva. It's as if you owe it. It's a cognizable get. It's monetizable. The aimba mishum ribis. Why is it not ribis? If we're saying it's like a milva, so if you pay back more than what you received, then it should be ribis. So I'm the lavadai to the hachiyavle. He says no, because it's a gift. The 2 gifts. So it's not. I didn't take the first gift, and now I said, oh, you know what? That means I have to pay more someday. It's 2 separate things. You gave me one gift, and I gave you back another. The ein hashvius misham tasa, and shvius does not stop. It doesn't cancel the debt. The Torah says, use a lashon of lo yigash. You shouldn't oppress. You shouldn't ask for your loan when Shemitah comes. But over here, the loan was not payable until the time that you made a new, it's not really a loan, but it doesn't become, you're not mechayiv until you make a new chasana. So up until that point, there was no chayiv. So even though my giving you when you gave me a gift by my chasana, that obligates me when you make a chasana, until you make a chasana, there's no requirement that I give it. So during Shvius itself, there was no pressure on you to pay, because there was no chiyuv yet. Why is it that a bachar doesn't get double? The havale roy, because it's only something that can be collected. It's not a muhsik. A bachar only gets on things that potential liabilities.
But what he paid, we get pishla.
He hadn't paid to the father. If the father already said where the money came from, right? Then it's just money, like anything else, right? If his father had sold something or gotten like he had a loan and the father collected it before he died, it would certainly be part of Pishnai. Amar Kahana, Klal the Shushpanisa, the rule of a Shushbinan, Hava Bamasa Iboyale Lamesa. Now, what we're going to go through now, under what circumstances do you have to actually repay this money? Do you have to, what do you have to do? Now, we said that it's not really just a gift like we think about it, that, if you come to the wedding, then you give $100. If you don't come to the wedding, you give $150. you got to give, you got to come to the wedding. That's part of it. Part of the deal is that you come and join in the simcha.
You suffer through it.
You got to suffer through it. So have a masa iboyle mesa. If he's in town and he hears about the simcha, the person who owes the shushmin has to come attend. Shama kol tavla. If he wasn't even invited, but he hears the noise that they're making the trumpets are sounding. Iboyle mesa. He's got to come. Lo shama kol tavla. But if he wasn't aware of it, iboyle lo do it. Lo do. The person who's making the simcha is required to let him know. Like if he lives too far out of town and there's no way he's going to know about it, the one who's making this new simcha has to let him know. And if he doesn't, tarumas islay. He asks the person who's now supposed to provide the gift. He wasn't invited to the simcha. He had no way of finding out. He's not going to get to the simcha. He's not going to get any supper. So he's losing out. I invited you to my chasa. You came, you spent 7 days in the hotel at my expense, and every night you ate steak. And now when you make a wedding, I've got to come give you a gift, but you didn't invite me to the meal, so I'm out supper. So Tarumas Islay. He has tinus and him shalom mishalom. But he still has to pay, still has to give the gift. Ba'ad kam. What it says, so these tarumas, meaning that he has a taina, doesn't just mean that he has a taina that he could go mutter into his pillow at night that he's in no good. It means he can reduce the gift by the amount of the lost meal. So when it says, how much do you take off for a meal that he didn't come into? Amrabai Nagu bnei gnana azuza. The people who go to a chasna usually spend up to a zuz. Therefore, I say bekape achle bekrese. What he puts in his hand, he eats in his stomach. Meaning a person who gives a zuz as a gift, he's basically eating up the whole gift with his meal. So if he owed him back one zuz, so you could assume that the amount of a meal would have been one zuz, and therefore it's all canceled out. Ad arba, up till 4, meaning if he was mechuyev to pay him 4 zuzim for his shushpinas, mishalom palva, he only has to pay 2 because someone who was giving a 4 zuz gift, that was obviously a little bit of a nicer chasana. So you could assume that he would have eaten 2. I mean, we can judge the kind of simcha based on the kind of gifts. If people are giving a $5 gift, it's probably a $5 meal. People are giving a $20 meal, $20 gift, then it's probably a $10 meal. Mikan ve'elech inish k'shivuse. More than that, you have to assess each person what kind of meal they were going to make. More than that, after that point, the gift is not tied to the value of the meal, so you have to look at how much the meal would have been worth and deduct that. Now, this is going to talk about a different aspect, that if I make one chasna, if I make in the Hilton, I make a destination wedding in Hawaii, and I pay for everyone to come, and you make a different kind of wedding, and it's not even. It's not even Steven. So then you can't say when you make a wedding in in your shul's basement that okay, you come to my shul's basement in repayment. Also, if one person made it out in public and the other one wants to make his wedding in private, he says, when you will make your simcha in public, a big public simcha, then that's when I'll come. But up until then, I'm not planning on coming. Also, the first one made with the psula, and the second one, now the one who wants him to come back, he made a chassan with almana. When you'll make a chasana with a psula, then I'll come.
It's fault.
What?
You can found
That's all he could get. Now he has to get on top of it. He has to get embarrassed that people are not going to come. But we're talking about an obligation that he's forced to come and then provide a gift. He's saying it's not comparable. It's he's still.
Use my dignity to go to chasna with an amona.
Also, you may listen. There's more. Also, you may be shnia bigash lasis. You may be rishayna. If one of them, if the first one made a second marriage, and now he's making a first marriage, it doesn't have to be even that mine is better. It could be mine is worse. I made shnia, and the other one is making a zivig rishon. He could say, "Listen, I'm only owe you a zivig sheni."
Shnia doesn't mean second wife; it means like second marriage.
Second marriage, yeah.
There was no assumption.
Well, hold on, just a second. That's what you're talking about. The first one was he married one wife like a normal person, and the second guy he married two. I'm only going to weddings with one wife. I'm not going to this kind of affair. Dovi, how you doing? Everything's good? Good. Tanurabon. Ater nechasen, ater pumbi. This is an expression that they used to make. And ater nechasen is someone who has a lot of fields. And ater pumbi is someone who has a lot of animals. Zeu bal haggadus. This is someone who knows all the haggadus. He knows all the statements he knows how to darshan in public. Ater sloyim, ater tekua. Someone who has a lot of cash and he has fancy wine. Zel bal pilpul. That's someone who knows how to be mafalpul in Gemara. Atir mashach atir kamas. Someone who has measured tua, and he's wealthy as far as having stored goods. Zel bal shmuas. This is someone who knows all the shmuas. What is it about shmuas? He knows the halachas and the members that are said. He remembers them. Hakol tzricha l'marichita. Everyone needs the master of wheat, Gemara. There's a person who knows Gemara. So the Gemara is saying that these phrases that people use to describe rich people can also be used to describe those referred to people who are learned in different ways. Amrav Zera Amarab. Ma'idechsev kol yemei ani royim. All the days of a poor person are bad. Zebal Gemara. This is someone who knows how to learn Gemara. The Toivlev Mishta Tamid, we'll see in a second what that means. The Toivlev Mishta Tamid, and who has a good heart, that he's drinking, he's always drinking, he's always happy. Zebal Mishnah. This is the person who knows Mishnah. The Gemara seems to be saying that Gemara is very hard. Trying to figure it out, you're not sure if you know it. Do you know? Do you understand it? But if someone knows Mishnah, he knows something. He has something that he knows what it is. It's easier to understand. Rabbi says the other way around, because he says, obviously, Mishnah, you read it, but you don't really know it without the Gemara. A person who knows Gemara understands what he's reading. A person who learns Mishnah, he thinks he knows it, but he doesn't really know. So the person who the one who's considered poor is the one who knows Mishnayos. The person who shapes stones will be despondent on them. And a person who cuts wood will warm himself with them. That's the people who learn Mishnayos. They work very hard, but they don't have so much to show for it. They don't benefit from it because they don't really understand it. But a person who cuts wood will warm himself with it. Those are the people who plunge into the depths and understand what the Mishnayos are saying by learning the Gemara. A bunch of pshatim in this pasuk. The days of an ani are bad. This is someone who has a bad wife. The toivlev mishta tamid, and what's a good life? Someone who has a good wife. What's bad is someone who is an istinus. He's very picky. He's fussy. So his whole life is everything is hard because he's never happy. A person who's easygoing has a better life. A person who is soft, he's not able to stand up for himself, so he gets taken advantage of. A person who's tough will end up having a better life. It's very, to us, the word achzari is a very negative connotation. Right? It's someone who's unnecessarily, but it doesn't mean that in this context, it means you see Zerachman, which is the opposite. Kama in Yonim Uraya, he sees many things become iris and happenings. Shaliba Baicha Tadal, and he's always disturbed. It means someone who's anxious, someone who's always letting things affect him.
Rachman is anxious?
Yeah, that's what that's the way the Rashbam explains. Rachman doesn't mean someone who's merciful on others. It means he everything's bothers him. But Achzari is someone who says, got to move on.
He's sort of a tough guy.
Tough guy, right? Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi Amakoyime Ani Roim Zeshadaitek Sarah. This is someone who is this is someone who's what do you call it? The miser. That's someone who's generous. It's easier life like that. Now we're going back to the Pashta Pshat in the Pasuk. It says all the days of an Ani are bad. How could that be? But you have Shabbos and Yom Tov. How so? What is on Shabbos and Yom Tov they would provide them tzedakah so that everyone had what to eat on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So Gemara Kedush Shmuel, Amar Shmuel, Shini Veset Chilas Chayli. Changing your schedule is the beginning of sickness. So even though a person gets what to eat on Shabbos and Yom Tov, since he didn't have anything to eat the whole week, it's going to make him sick. Except Sefer Ben Sira. Then it doesn't mean just the Yom. The line nights are also what are some of the bad things that happen. The Shefel Gag and Gagai, his roof, these other people's roofs. Mimata Gag and Mamta Gag and other people's roofs, the water will come off of their roofs and splash onto his and make holes in it. Beroim Haram Karmoi, and his vineyard is on the top of the mountain, in the rockiest place. May offer Karmel. Then his soil will fall down and things are going bad. It continues to go bad in every mission.
What's this supposed to do? Now what?
We're just saying what the pasuk means. We're saying he's explaining the pasuk. Kol yemei anayim rayim. What does it mean? Kol yemei anayim. That's always bad. It doesn't mean like it's what the eitzah is. You have to give tzedakah, and then you won't be an ani. And the problem is you have to first not be an ani to give tzedakah. To catch 22. Yeah. The Rav, I'm sure, has a lot of eitzahs about how not to be an ani. There's all kinds of psukim. Well, I don't know. I certainly don't know. Talk to your financial advisor.
Yeah, that helps.
Someone who sends the traditional engagement gifts to the house of his father-in-law, meaning after the Kedushin, before the Nisuin, if he sent 100 money, a huge amount of money. Now, the way it works is that this gift, normally a person would say, listen, I'm giving it to you, but if it doesn't work out, then I want it back. But if the chassan gets to go down to his Kala's house, to his Arusa's house by her father, and he eats one suda with her, and that suda is even just one dinner, ain't a nigman. At that point, he says, you know what, I'm Saimach Das, I'm very happy I got to go out on a date with my future wife, and I'm Michael any rights to get back that money. And so therefore he can't be goyvet if the Nisuin ends up not happening. But if he didn't eat that suda, he didn't get anything in return. At that point, if the Nisuin doesn't happen, he can go and take back the savloinus, the gift. Shelch savloinus merubin sheyachzor ima lebeis baila. If he sent her a large gift, which is just the case that will normally happen, sheyachzor ima lebeis baila, and he says, listen, I'm giving you $10,000 to buy stuff, but it's intended that after we get married, I want you to bring those gifts. I want you to buy a food processor, a couch. He's giving her money, but he's saying, I want you to bring it to us when we get married, for us to use. Harelu nigvin. And then if the marriage doesn't happen, in that case, since he specified he wants it to bring it into their marriage, then he could take it back. Savloinus mu'atin, but if it's a small savloinus, and he says, listen, you just use it before the chasana. This is for you to have. A nigvin. In that case, he didn't say that he wants to get it back, so he can't take it back as long as he had that suda. Amarava, dafka dina. We said that if he has a meal of dinner, then he can't ask back for the savlinus, for the gifts. Rava says, dafka dina, is it only a dinner of a pachas medina? If it's less than dinner loy, then he can't ask for the entire gift back. Rav is saying that as a fact. So Pshita, what does Rav have to tell me for? The Mishnah said dinner tanan. It said a dinner, that the meal is a dinner. So the tema, what didn't that feel? Pachas dinner means any kind of meal. I think tani dinner or the milsik tani. We're just saying the normal case is that a meal is a dinner. Kamashmala. Like we said before, actually on the last Amid, we said that a zuz. Zuz is, I think, the same thing as a dinner. But we were giving the normal amount, but that was a chasen. Kamash Malan. Achal Tanan. The Mishnah said if he eats a meal, shasamai. What if he didn't eat anything? He just drank. Hu Tanan. It says, well, if he brought the gift, shaluchemai. What if he sent a shliach to have the meal, but he himself did not participate in the meal? Shamtnan, he said, he gave it to her. Right? If he he ate it over there, he ate it together with his wife, with his future wife, by his chama. Shagalemai, what if she sent him food to eat, but they didn't eat it together? Is that also considered a meal that he would forego his right to get back the gifts? Tashma, there was one man, he sent wagons full of wine and oil and silver goods, and gold goods, milas, and different types of clothing. He went, he jumped on his horse and he was so happy. He sent gifts and it's all good. And he went to go to his father-in-law's house to meet his kala. He stood at the entrance, at the doorway to his father-in-law's house. They brought him out 1 cup of hot wine. And he drank it and he died. And that was the end of the whole thing. Nothing, no marriage ended up happening. He got too overexcited. They went to ask Rav Acha bar Rabira, what's the din lefnei chachamim? They asked the chacham, what's the din? Leusha and usha. Va'amru savloinus hasuyin livlois ein nigmit. The gifts that are intended to be consumed, meaning like the kadei yayin, the kadei shemen, ein nigmit. You can't take it back. Because he had a meal, and these are not intended to be eaten. But those, like the silver and the gold, nigvin, that you can take back. Because those, it was never intended to be a gift that she should consume. So they were intended for her to have when they got married. So he never intended to give them, even though he had a meal. Shma mina, but you see from here, afilu shasa. In this case, he just drank. So you see that it doesn't have to be food. Sham mina afilu pachas medina. And it was only 1 cup. That's less than a dinner. Rashi says, no, that's not right. Just because it was only 1 cup, they used to sometimes grind up a pearl and put it into the drink. That would be worth 1,000 zuz. So maybe that cup was worth 1,000 zuz. So you don't have a raya that less than a zuz. Ashke Shamina Afilu Shagulai. Ashke, I'm sorry. Shamina Afilu Shagulai. Even he drank it outside. He never came into the house. So you see that it doesn't have to be, even if she sent him the meal, it's still considered that he forgoes his rights to the savlinus. So when he says at the entrance of the house, maybe that's considered to be in the house. First question. What is the din if he got a meal that was less than a dinar? Do you say that he then forgoes in proportion? Let's say it was half a dinar, so he forgoes half of the gift. So you got a half of a meal. Like we said in the mission, it has to be a meal of a dinner. But what if it's half a dinner? Maybe you only do proportionally. Shvach savloinus mau. What if it's if the savloinus had increased in value? Even the isnu b'didei hadri b'shusay shavuach. Since the isnu b'didei hadri, since if the savloinus that he had given her, and now he didn't get a meal, and now it's not going through. If the actual gift was still extant, she has to give him back the gift. So now if it went up in value, he also gets it. Even the avdi mignavi, if it was lost or stolen, she doesn't have to. She has to pay him back. It's considered to be hers. It's not clear. Boy Rava, savloinus hasuyin livlois, beloy balu. We're saying that if it's a gift that's normally consumed, and he had the meal, then she doesn't have to give it back. It has to be something that's hasuyin livlois. What happens if it's something that's intended to be consumed? He gave her food that it's not, but beloy balu, but they canceled the wedding after a week, and she never ate any of that food that he gave her. Mao, Toshma. You're right. Zu halacha heller bacha shtarabiyah lefnei chacham beusha. Vamos avlonis asuyin livlis ein nigvin. This is what we said, that we quoted before. That they say a savlonis that's intended to be consumed is not, he can't get it back. She'enas to use livlis nigvin. My lav afagav balu. So it says as a statement, whenever it's intended to be consumed, he can't get it back. It sounds like even if she didn't consume it, even though she didn't consume it, in spite of the fact that it's intended to be consumed, it's mashma under any circumstances. So I'm going to lie the balu. No, Gemara says no. Maybe when it says asuyun ligveis, it means and it was also actually consumed by her. So you don't have a right. Toshma savloinus mu'atin. We said in our Mishnah, if the last part of the Mishnah, we said if it was a small savloinus, shetishtamish b'hen he beisavia, and he has in mind that she should use it in her father's house. Ain't nigvin, he can't retake it if the marriage doesn't go through. So l'chayr, it sounds like even if it's if she doesn't consume it, tirgama rava biyava b'savchasa. Those are talking about specific cases of like cheap a hat and a net, things that are no one pays attention to. So that even if she didn't consume it, he's not nigvin. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Ma'aseh b'adam echad sheshagol lebeis chama v'yayin chadash v'shemen chadash u'klei pishtin. Someone sent to his father's house new wine and newly harvested wine and newly harvested oil u'klei pishtin, chadash and new flax clothing, linen clothing, batzeres on Shavuos. So it's very early in the season. Usually you harvest later. And this happened, he said, in Atzeres already, in Shavuos, they already had all this stuff was fresh from the harvest. So Michael Mashman, so why you tell me the story that someone sent this gift? So it's telling you how chashav Eretz Yisrael is that even by Shavuos, all these things, the yayin and the shemen and the linen, the pishton is all ready by Shavuos. If he said he gave it, we don't say that he's lying because it's too early in the season. You see that there is such a thing. His wife told him that she can't smell. And he went after her. He followed her into a churva to check if she really can't smell. The way the Rashbam understands it is she was his he was muresis to her, and he said if she can't smell, I'm not interested in the marriage. She's disabled. She didn't tell me you're supposed to say. Everyone knows you have to say by the third date if you have a medical problem. And she never told her that she can't smell anything. Now, you're thinking to yourself, what's the big deal if she can't smell? Yeah. I think this sense of taste goes along with this sense of smell. Can't cook. It's a big problem. So you figured it out right away. Yeah. So he went after her into a churva. He said, oh, I smell the delicious smell of radishes. She answered back to him, Man yovlim because and she said back to him, he didn't really have a radish, but he said, I smell it. And she answered back, oh, the radishes smell so good. I wish I had some dates to eat together with the radish. They taste good together. In the meantime, there was no radish, and he was just testing her. And nafal ala churva umesa. At that point, the churva fell down and killed her. So now, the question is, the way the Rashbam understands, there's different shot. But one shot is that if it was a churva, it was an isolated place. So if he hadn't expressed a disinterest in marrying her, that would be considered a chuppah. That would be a yichud, and they would be considered married from that point. But since he said this whole statement that he's testing her, at that point he already expressed disinterest, and therefore, when she died, he was already not intending to marry her, and therefore it's not an asur. Mesa in a yarsha. If he is not Yerisher, since he did not intend to marry her, he said that I'm trying to. If you can't smell, I don't want to marry you, and that's what turned out. So therefore, he missed out on the big Yerusha. We said in the Mishnah that if he gave her amounts for her to eat in her father's house, then he can't take it away. Yosef Rav Saba Kamei de Rapapa. Rav Saba sat in front of Rapapa. Yosef Akama. Bein Shemesa he, Bein Shemes hu. Whether she died, whether he died, it doesn't make a difference why the Nisuan was canceled. He has to. We said under some circumstances, like if he said that you have to bring it back to my house, or Hadarhu, or if he changes his mind, it's going to be the same then. It's going to depend on if it was something that was intended to be consumed, then she doesn't have to give it back. And if it wasn't intended to be consumed, then she does. Savloinus hadri, the din is savloinus. She has to return those things that are permanent, that he intended her to bring into his house. But food that she is supposed to consume, she doesn't have to return. Hadra ba'i. What if she said, I'm not interested in going through with the marriage? Hadra afilu kishriyaka. Then there's no limits. If she backs out of the chasana, then she has to pay back every savloinus, even the most consumable. Then it's totally her fault. That which she has to pay back, she doesn't have to pay the full value of what she ate. She pays it the amount of cheap food at kamazel at telsa. That's up to a third less that you can get in the marketplace. You can get food for less than if he ate steak, you can go into the marketplace and get chop meat for a third less. That's what he has to pay. Okay, we'll stop over here.